Well, those were the headlines, but straight to our top focus at 6:30 p.m. Now, in a move that once again has raked up the debate around data localization, global card payments major Mastercard has now proposed to the Reserve Bank of India that a certain date from which it will start deleting data of Indian cardholders from global servers. Now, in an interaction with the PTI, Poor Singh, who is the India Division President, South Asia Mastercard, said that the company is operating in over 200 countries. It is nowhere else has been asked to delete data from its global servers. Now, one would remember that the Reserve Bank of India in April had issued a new set of guidelines and regulations which came into effect from October 16. That had required payment companies to store all their information about transactions involving Indians solely on computers which are within the country. Now, Mastercard has warned that this move would also mean the weakening of safety and security over a period of time. Now, Mastercard said that all new Indian transaction data is being stored at its technology center in Pune as of October 6th, as required by the RBI's directive on data localization. Now, it has given a proposal to the RBI to delete back data from a certain date, but it is wary of consequences of such a move, including disputes over transactions. Now, Mastercard said, and I quote, "The proposal we've given to the RBI is that we will delete its data from everywhere else, whether it is the card number, the transaction details, the data will only be stored in India. We will start deleting that very soon." That's the first comment that came from Mastercard. They went on to say, and I quote again, "No other country in the world has asked us the data to be deleted from the global server, and the reason why it is a concern for us, because that would be weakening of safety, security over a period of time," end quote. Now, Mastercard has also said that the company is seeking any reprieve in complying with these regulations. And for more in this, we're now being joined in by Tarun Veg, who's a cyber security expert. We've spoken before, Tarun. Good to have you in India Ahead back. Let's get straight to it. You know, that's a strong comment coming in from Mastercard. They're saying that they will start deleting data from a certain date to follow the RBI's mandate. First, how are you even reading this move?
See, I think this move should have come up pretty early. For instance, if you are aware, US has something called FISA, Foreign Intelligence Service Act, based on which any organization is bound to share their data with the US government. Now, I don't know if you're aware that RBI recently came out with an audit where they said that banks who have migrated to Office 365 have ended up sharing the details of customers based in India with the US agencies, because Microsoft is bound by that agreement. Keeping that in mind, I think this is a very good move where our data has to be localized to us. Why should our data be, stored in countries abroad where we have no control over it? And, Mastercard's objection to it, saying it will weaken the security, that does not really hold true. Technically, it does not make sense. Technically, Mastercard is using this data for two purposes. One, to basically, profile a customer and to be able to cross-sell things to him. The other, to be able to identify patterns, to identify fraudulent transactions. Now, both these models, this is basically this is basically a machine language model or an AI model. Both these models can be run on the data set which is stored in India. I mean, why do you need the data to be stored in US servers? Why not have the data stored in Indian servers and run the same model there?
I will come back to the aspect of what Mastercard is saying and how they're warning, saying that this could have security concerns going ahead. I also want to talk about the consumers. Now, this really brings up the debate of data localization once again. But what does it really mean for the consumers? What happens to the consumers whose data gets deleted? Do they see any security breach happening in their transactions going forward?
So I think the only breach that can happen right now is that certain transactions which they would end up deleting from their database. A customer would get them and say that I never made this transaction, and you have logged this transaction in your details. So that is the only dispute that you can see. But going in the long run, the consumers would actually be benefited. See, customers in India, consumers in India are not really aware of how our own data is being misused or being used against us. In Europe, people have woken up, and that is why you see the kind of regulation they have brought out there, kind of penalty that they're putting on companies like Google and Microsoft for that matter. We don't see anything of that not happening in India. In India, it's free for all. Everybody is taking our data and using it to either cross-sell things to us or using it to gather intelligence on us, to profile customers. I mean, why should that happen? I do have a lot of expectations from the data privacy law which is about to come out. So, hoping we would follow suit.
Right. Right. Tarun, going back to what the consumers are going to go through, because I spoke to a lot of people through the day and I asked them if they were even aware of such a move, if something like this does happen when Mastercard does start, deleting data and transactions would get affected. They said they have absolutely no idea. Do you think then companies like Mastercard are using this against the consumers themselves?
So one thing, right, they're not deleting the data. They're only shifting the data to servers in India. That is what they are doing. Ideally, what they're saying is that they would, from now on, all the transactions will be logged on servers in India. And from servers in US,
so these are two different things then. So one is Mastercard is saying that all the recent transactions will now be stored as per October 16th in India, but all the backdated transactions will be deleted. So that's a red flag then.
So that's my point. Why delete those transactions? If they're so worried about it, why not shift those transactions to Indian servers? Ultimately, it's a database thing, right? Ultimately, you're just shifting the transactions from one server to another. So why create such a hue and cry about it? See, when they talk about security perspective, the only problem that can happen is that if you delete a previous transaction, a customer can one day get up and say that I did not make this transaction. That is the only dispute that can happen. And as I said, when we talk about patterns to identify fraudulent transactions or to profile a customer, all those patterns can be done on your data set which is stored in servers in India. Why delete the data? Why not shift it to servers in India and then delete it?
Okay. Tarun, now going back to the security concerns which now have been raised by Mastercard. Mastercard put out a number of press releases and they said that they're warning of security concerns. They're already concerned of the weakening of their security. What kind of side effects can really be seen?
Honestly speaking, if you look at the recent trend that has been happening, I don't know whether you're aware of this company called Gemalto.
Right.
They claim that Aadhaar, UIDAI has vulnerabilities within their infrastructure. And within a few days, Aadhaar actually came out with a guideline that Gemalto was taking data and, giving it to external parties outside the country. Now, ultimately, and Gemalto actually had to come back and apologize to the government of India saying that they had come out with a fraudulent report. Who says that something like this is not happening here? Who says Mastercard is not coming out with some gimmick just to put the fear of God in the, in the minds of Indian public to ensure that the data can be put on US servers? Is to look at it from a security perspective also. See, nobody is asking you to delete the data. People are just saying that the data has to be localized to my country so that we have control over it. So that if the US government says that we need data from certain customers or certain information from certain email IDs, that should not be applicable to them. That data belongs to the public, to the Indian public. Why should US government have any control or control over that?
Tarun, the question that we should be then asking is, that is the crux of it, that nobody is asking them to delete the data. We're just saying shift it to a server which is based within our own country. Mastercard, on their behalf, are saying that we operate in over 200 countries. This practice is not prevalent in any other country. Why is it so important for India then? Why do you think Mastercard is fearing this move then?
See, if you look at it logically, no other country apart from the European Union, nobody really put a penalty on Microsoft, right? European Union came out with a penalty on Microsoft. They came out with a penalty on Google as well. So just because countries have not done it does not mean that it is not the right thing to do. Now the question I would like to ask Mastercard is, when they talk about security, what kind of security are they talking about? Are they talking about the security of the individual consumer, or are they talking about security in perspective of national security? Are they looking at it in terms of identifying fraudulent Hawala transactions? Is that the kind of security are they talking about? Or they are asking about security to an individual user like me? Now in case, and I come back to the same point, if it is to an individual user, they don't need to delete the data. Shift it to the servers in India and everything remains the same. If they're talking about, security from a national perspective to identify Hawala transactions or fraudulent transactions or, drug traffic, money or so on, then Mastercard does not have a right to do that at all. That right belongs to governments of the world. And only, and they will have to involve Interpol or the rest of the processes has to be followed to get access to that data. From a consumer perspective, it does not make
Tarun,
any
lastly
difference.
before,
So I'm just saying
Okay,
from a consumer perspective,
lastly,
it does
before I
not
let
make
you go, I
any
want to
difference.
ask, yeah. Okay, so you're saying it makes no difference from, if you look at from the consumer aspect. The last aspect that I want to talk to you about is the cost of data localization. Now, the first time when the RBI really got these guidelines in, a lot of hue and cry was made about it, where a lot of firms saying the cost will be incremental. Do you think this argument really stands?
So which firms have said the cost will be incremental? If you look at the companies which have been cribbing about incremental cost,
One of them, yeah, correct.
all MNCs, right? You look at Microsoft saying that I have a cloud. Why should I localize my servers in India? You have Amazon saying the same thing. You have Mastercard and Visa saying the same thing. Now the point is, you have your servers in US. You can set up the same set of servers in India. How is the cost incremental? I'm just shifting my servers from one place to another. I'm shifting data from one place to another, and I'm localizing the data set. Why will the cost be incremental?
Right. Lastly, Tarun, now Mastercard is saying that, they've written to the RBI. They're waiting for them to hear back from the RBI. What do you think is the road ahead if the data does start getting deleted from a certain date now?
Mastercard is responsible for it. RBI has not asked them to delete the data. RBI has asked them to remove the data from their servers outside the country. That does not mean that they will not store that data in servers in India. So they are responsible. They definitely have to be responsible for it.
Okay, Tarun. Now we leave it there. Good to have you in India. Thank you so much for taking our time and talking to us. For now, we are slipping into a very short break, but lots more on the other side.